When you are given a problem to solve as a developer, the first thing that will come to your mind is the algorithm. An algorithm simply means the steps involved in solving a particular problem. Let's take the timer application for example. If you study it properly, you will notice that we have two important information involved. The first one is the presentation. The second one is the code behind. %85 of the time, software developers will choose to do this one first before this one. So, what are the things that you need that will make your presentation easier? And then the code behind. The code behind actually is the code that actually drives the application, that makes the application work exactly the way you want it to work, apart from the one that displays the user interface. Okay, now the presentation is very important because that is what your users are going to see. They don't care how your code behind works. All they care about is the presentation, and that the buttons and the controls, everything, the widgets, works the way they are supposed to work. So the first thing that comes to your mind when it comes to presentation is to do a layout. You can sketch, resketch, design, redesign until you achieve a design that is presentable. Now, when it comes to this particular problem of the timer, you want to know the particular function or something that is built into the tools that you are using. This time around, we are talking about Tkinter. You want to know the functions or methods that will allow you to do this presentation easier, in an easier way. Remember, we have layout managers. Layout managers in Tkinter. We have the grid layout manager, we have the pack layout manager, and then we have the place layout manager. You have been using this grid layout for quite some time. I want you to go and study more about this pack and place, just in case you will need it in the future. But if you look at this problem that we want to solve, the grid layout is the most suitable to arrange these widgets the way we wanted, because it allows us to arrange things in a tabular form. So I'm going to draw an empty rectangle to represent our grid. So this is a sketch. Now let's divide it into columns and then rows. Now, don't forget that the index starts from 0, 1, and 2, and so on for the rows and columns. This is row 0, row 1, row 2, row 3. This is column 0, column 1, column 2. So according to what we had in the timer, we had our text box here. We had our clock, a label that displays the time, and then we had a label that shows the corresponding time in describing them, and then this is for second. And then here is where we now have our button to start the timer, and then button to reset. And this one start, and then this one for quit. It is after you have sketched something like this that you can now start thinking of the code to drive it. If you haven't done something like this, there is no need for you to start coding at all. Now, it is after this that you will now know, oh, you will need a code that will make this start button to work as a start button, the code that will make this reset button to work as a reset button, and the code that will make this quit button to work as a quit button. Then it is then that you will now start writing the functions that will be responsible for all this command. So from the algorithm, thinking algorithmically, looking at the steps involved, we are trying to iron one out, which is the presentation. It is after the presentation, sketching of the presentation, then you can now start talking about the code behind. Okay, so I hope that is clear. Thank you.